at least 12 varieties of apples. We've got 4 varieties of apricots, 3 of avocados, 2 of banana. We've got boysenberry, Cape gooseberry. We've got crabapple. We've got feijoa. We've got figs. We've got grapes, obviously. I've got some ice cream beans in some containers there, so hopefully they'll get planted out one day. We've got quite a lot of citrus. We've got blood orange, Washington navel. We've also got honey murcot mandarin. 4 varieties of olives. We did have some nectarines, but they were quite early fruiting, got a lot of curly leaf and died. So what I found is those early stone fruit really, when we have a bit of moisture around in spring, so I'm mid and late season peaches and nectarines is what I'd be doing. Passion fruit, 6 varieties of peaches, 6 varieties of pears, 12 varieties of plums, 2 quinces, raspberries, strawberries, persimmons, tamarillos, Tahitian lime, white sapotes. So yeah, we can grow a lot here, we're lucky, and there are more things we can grow, but that's just some of the diversity here. Yeah, we've got a soak about 100 metres that way, so we're lucky we've got a really good water supply. It's a soak that fills from the bottom and fills with some when it rains in winter, if it rains in winter, so we do have water, and as I said before, water is our most important fertiliser, and it's brown smelly water, so I'm sure there's some nutrient in there. We'll have a little look. I've got for each fruit tree I've got two little drippers, and in the middle I've got a little sprayer, so there's a bit of both. What I have started to do is put a circle of drippers around a fruit tree, so that's just so I can grow a diversity of things underneath them, but yeah, that's the sprinkler system we use. So I mentioned before we've been growing organically. We came across this thing called regenerative agriculture, which is, just another word. It's permaculture in a paddock. But it did give us a couple of extra things to do in terms of growing organically. And one was definitely the cover crops, which is giving us the diversity. So I think organic's a really good start, but there's more we can do. And in the vineyard, we've been putting the sheep in, and we used in the vineyard and the orchard, I used to prune, mulch, and sometimes the mulch didn't always go back in the orchard, but now I just prune and leave them on the ground. So as I said, the priority is about diversity, and it's not having a neat manicured garden. I guess for what it's worth, I'm giving you permission to have a messy, chaotic garden, because we want functional diversity. If we've got lots of straight lines, if it all looks orderly, I haven't got time for that. I don't have time to finish anything. So so yeah, that's just sort of how it is. And it's diversity. It's not, we do some tours on Saturday, and it's like people sort of get a bit agitated, go, I want it to be neat. And I'm going, well, if you've got a small garden, you can do it organic and regenerative and be neat, but sorry, I can't do it all straight lines and neat. So I'm just trying to imitate nature. The sun's coming and going a little bit. So, yeah. So I love to start with a brown mulch and upgrade as quick as I can to a green living mulch, which we'll see for reasons that Mark has mentioned. So to cover the soil with some organic matter is great, because bare soil is not good. But yeah, I want a whole diversity of plants growing under fruit trees, and we'll look at that. So I just wanted to show you through the Wilson Inlet catchment. I'm not in the Wilson Inlet catchment, they let me come in, so that was nice of them. We were able to do some soil biology tests. So I sort of was hearing about, this biology is doing some really good stuff, but what's in my soil? That'd be nice to know. So the tests were quite expensive, but they were subsidised. So I've just got the results of our soil biology test in the vineyard, and the vineyard is just really an orchard, And so I'll hand it around, but the results were given to me in these nice little traffic light systems. So that was good. I had lots of, I've got a little dial there sort of, and most of those are in the green. But this was a bit of an aha moment for me, was these are the services that the microbes are doing: nutrient solubilization, so making those nutrients available, making those bits of those mineral fragments from rocks and stones available, nutrient cycling, disease resistance, drought resistance, nutrient accessibility, and residue breakdown. However, we had a workshop here and Professor Lynn Abbott mentioned to me, well, the tests aren't all that reliable, so don't get too excited. So, but anyway, it was like a bit of an insight to me, as in these are the services my microbes are providing me. Whether the test is 100% accurate, I don't know. But as I mentioned before, we've certainly had a mismatch between our plant tissue tests and our soil tests. So for us, our soil tests say we have very high amounts of iron. We're going to do a plant sap test. The plant says I'm not getting enough iron, and Mark's mentioned that in terms of availability. So a soil test is not everything. It's a good start. We've also done a bit of grafting, and I've had a bit of a breakout year. I've had some good results with apple and stone fruit and grapevines, and for the third time I've tried to do avocados. Avocados are really hard. We are having a grafting workshop here in August with this grafting guru guy from Victoria coming. So yeah, that will be hosted under Torbay Catchment. So let me know if you're interested, and we'll be seeing some grafting as we go. But I think what we'll do is we'll start walking. Said to me, your citrus trees over there have got a manganese deficiency, and they still have. So that's that yellow blotching, and we might spot a magnesium deficiency as we walk around, which is a yellow blotching with green leaves. I think the potassium deficiency is back on the avocado. So I guess people may have seen, we can diagnose some of our deficiencies by looking at the leaves. So that's probably a good thing to sort of have a look at, and just look at your plants. I've just got over here, and I think you can just stay here, but you can come closer. But this is meant to be an asparagus patch. I've got fennel here. What I have got is this strawberry clover. That's, if you want to go and have a look, you can, but it's just formed this green carpet and has smothered out a lot of the grasses, not everything. So strawberry clover, I think it's, if it's got a bit of moisture and shade, it's sort of perennial. It's going to keep growing. And this is, and I've harvested so much seed off that. It's quite amazing. And you can see it growing amongst kikuyu down at Middleton Beach and in the dog park on Parade Street, where there's some moisture and a little bit of shade, I guess. So this is something the grasses tend to win and seed prolifically. And in the orchard, I want to try and outcompete the grasses with some strawberry clover and some other vetches. So I'm hoping in a couple of years I'm going to have that living green mulch under my orchard, but that's just what it can look like. It's blanketed that whole area, and obviously I'm getting lots of benefits from that. So I've got some worse sand on the property. The last 2 years I've put in a winter cover crop here, which winter and spring looks amazing, but the summers are getting pretty dry, and we're sort of back to not much. What we've got, just wander up here, what we've got growing here in this part shady, sandy, compacted, non-aggregated sand is chicory. This is chicory, it's growing. This stuff can have roots 2 meters long. That wouldn't probably have 2 meters long because it's quite young. So, and who knows what that is? That's some fennel. I mean, I pulled up about 50 plants of fennel from the veggie garden, and the roots are amazing. We've got some surviving in sand in the orchard, in the vineyard, and the sheep can eat it down, it comes back. So we're getting roots. This is tough. We're getting some roots in sand, which obviously is a good thing. So these are two things I want in the orchard. Put it into Australia in the 1800s for stock feed. This stuff germinates on sandy soil in bare sand in spring. We don't have a lot of bare sand in spring, but we walk past another plant just near the broken down tractor over there. There's just some evening primrose that's just in some part shady sand, germinated and is growing. We've got some bigger plants.
It, Murray, is that right?
I spread a lot of seed of that around. It's something I used to pull out of the orchard, but now I'm going, oh, okay, I'll show you one in flower. But this is, so we just use our local resources. So when trees fall down, most people get the chainsaw out and light it up and go, I've got rid of the problem. I mean, I've created habitat for black skinks. I don't have a lot of snails now. I'm thinking the black skinks are eating a lot of my snails. So that was an unintended consequence. So we've got here some fennel. So fennel grows, it flowers, and obviously we're getting parasitic wasps and lacewings. And if there's some thrip, mealybug or mite, they'll take them down. So fennel would like to take over the place and sort of is. We've got some other diversity here. There's a fruit tree in here, the graft didn't work, but this is just some lucerne, so it's a nitrogen fixer. So there's a sweet potato and there's some calendula there. So diversity. Okay, we've got a peach tree here and there is a little sprayer just where that bamboo is, so we've got a bit of life there. But what I'm interested in is where we've got life in mulch and no water over a brutal spring, a brutal summer and a brutal autumn. There's things that are living in mulch. So over here, you probably can pick where the sprayer is. This is the chicory with a little bit of water. But over here, there's no water. I've got two drippers and a sprayer that's sending water out about that far. But we've got our silver beet that's going, I can do this. We've got fennel and chicory over here. So once we get a bit of rain, there's going to be a mass germination of things here. You can see there's some flowers here. There's broad beans. There's some nasturtiums. So, I want to upgrade my brown mulch to a living green mulch, and I'm pretty impressed that these things can actually survive. So yeah, obviously when there's more water around, this will be diverse, and this will be too. There's so much seed I've put here. So diversity, chaos, not neat, but I think it has a beauty all of its own. Got a macadamia over here, and that self-mulches, and this mulch was about 200 mil thick, and Pam said, look, I can't find the macadamias and I'm worried there's going to be a brown slithery thing. So you can see all the macadamia mulch that's been spread. So self-mulching, an abundance of nuts, just give it water. Over here we have an avocado that someone told me 25 years ago, if it's over 25 degrees, a mature tree needs 80 litres. That's quite a lot. So this is where if I clean out the gutters, if I rake up some leaves, not here, over there under the veranda, this is where I dump stuff, the stuff that I can't put into my mulcher. Now I hardly mulch anything. I just throw stuff here because this is, it's breaking down slowly, it's releasing some nutrients. There's a bit of a sponge there. All right, it doesn't look neat, but like I said, that's not my goal. No, I just stuck them there to see what would happen. And I would like to have some plants growing here. The nasturtiums are going to sort of kick off. There's some warrigal green. So yeah, I would like to have some more green plants. Obviously they need to be a little bit shade loving here. Not to be confused with bananas. Plantain is something also that I want in my orchard. So yeah, probably closing the loop. I don't think we can close it all together, but we can try. So what we've got here, a couple of rows of apples, and then a lot of pears and some apricots and a few other bits and pieces. So a lot of these fruit trees have been, this has been picked 10 times. We'll go and look at an apple tree and a sundowner that we haven't picked. But this is we've set this up as an espalier orchard. So we've got 4 wires and we're trying to create these cordons. And if it's growing up, we cut it, that's north. We want our sun to penetrate. Sun hits the wood, we get flowers, we get fruit. So probably 60% of the fruit I need to thin, and this is probably 1/10 of the fruit that's left, and just the small ones. But what we've got, as you can see from here, I have put cover crops in here previously. I've had to till the soil a little bit, and they look really good. I'm not going to put a cover crop in here this year, so I've done a little bit of weeding. The prunings just go on the ground. If something can survive here, great. So I'm creating the diversity in here. This is the Vevita grass. This is very deep rooted. It's just some diversity. They make perfume out of the roots. I'm not going into the perfume business, but it's just a plant that's capturing sunlight, has some different leaf architecture, very deep roots. So we've got some comfrey here, we've got some fennel. Now that's the evening primrose there, and there's a lot of seeds there. So again, that's germinated just in, sand. So that's definitely something I want. We've got some Cape gooseberry here. Now what we've done is we've just used up some lots of bits of old logs, and we've made all these little frames, and I've planted cover crop in each of those. So we put in some strawberry clover, trichala, subterranean clover, some linseed, some lucerne, and some buckwheat. And so I've put them under a dripper. So I really want to have those nitrogen fixes, the clovers and the lucerne, to sort of, like I had in the veggie garden, because you can see all the grass I pulled out. The grasses just dominate, and of course there's going to be all this grass seed here, and that's going to in a week's time there's going to be germination. So I'm just going, all right, let's just focus on under a dripper. Let's just get them growing there, because this stuff, it's a bit hard to manage, all this stuff here, and we'll just see if particularly the clover, that strawberry clover, if we can have this living green mulch. But we're obviously going to keep these. So this is probably a little bit of an example of how we're progressing towards that thing called a food forest, where we have plants at 5 different levels. There's just diversity. So the buckwheat's in because it's going to germinate really quickly, grow quickly, send out a flower. The linseed seems to love, it doesn't mind if it's waterlogged or if it's really, really dry. So that's that's just some of the seeds I had on hand, which we just threw in. And you can see some chicory here. Paul, if you got that sign, that's the yacon. That's the yacon just here. So diversity. We've got, let's just keep wandering down. It's a chop and drop mulch. So once we get this established, the roots of this can go down, meters. And once it's established, it can be drought resistant. There was actually some growing over near the veggie garden that has had no water, and it's up here. So apparently, I'll see it when I believe it. If you plant this, the kite can't get through. Really good stock feed as well. So the banner grass. So the banner grass, I think it's a hybrid between elephant grass and another one. It doesn't go to seed. Heads chopped off because I had a lot of heirloom varieties, old varieties. Some of those were pretty ordinary apples, and I thought, okay, off with your head. And we've grafted on here a Gravenstein. That was my mum's favourite apple. She grew up on an orchard in Mount Barker. Has anybody had a Gravenstein apple? Okay, we get it in February, very early, and it's a really, really, really good apple. So I'm always interested in having something available when others aren't. So there's been as we wandered down, there's been quite a lot of grafting happen. So just here, this is a peach tree that I grafted on the 11th of September. Now this, I didn't put this here, this came up from either that Satsuma plum or that apricot, and it grew there. It came up. You can see there's other rootstock coming up. This was the rootstock that came up. It just got lucky. It's not going to have a lawnmower run over it. So that's going to now bear some peaches to it, and I will leave that there. Here, you can't see it on this side, but here is an apple that's been grafted. So when you chop the heads off, often they'll send up lots of little shoots, the apples, so I can dig those up and interplant. Now most of the apple trees here are on dwarf rootstock, and this was planted in 2002. That's 20 years of growth. So dwarf, it's not getting very big. These are not on dwarf rootstock. That's a pear, and the apples behind you, yeah, those are, it's either Anna or Dorset Gold, and we get those in December and January, and they're not on dwarf rootstock, and we planted those 10 years ago because we ran out of water and all the apple trees there died. But I'm not sure, but when we had a cover crop here, some of it's continued to grow. This stuff, you can see it's growing on the edges here. This is a tough grass. This is one that I'll probably leave because it can survive. It can survive the harsh Albany summers in silver loam, and there's some seed there. I'll actually be really happy. That's really hard to pull out because the root system's like this. So I'm going, well, you're tough. You're a grass that I'm going to say, yep, you can survive. You don't have to be under a dripper. So here's some chicory that's flowering and going to seed. So, yep, I want to throw that around. Now, I'm just going to pop over here. And so we have a sundowner apple here, and they're not ready yet. A lot of the apples were already picked, and things were a lot earlier this year. So over 50% of the apples were removed. So we had good pollination. Probably should have removed a few more. And if you want to have a look on the other side, it's sort of, yeah, even more apples. So I'm just saying that a little apple tree on an espalier system, you can get a lot of apples. This is an interesting variety called a red gem, a really nice apple. So some of the old heirloom ones I left. A red gem is really good. I don't have a lot of compost at the moment because it's been really dry. So this is the azola that we go down to the soak with a crab net lined with some shade cloth, and we can scoop up this azola that's grown and died. It's rotting organic matter, but it's I've got moisture there, and I can leave that out in the sun, and 2 weeks later it's full of moisture. So we just shoved some handfuls of that in there and threw in the seeds, and that one was just some dry. It was some soil that didn't have any moisture in it. So we'll just see how things go. So I'm just gathering what I have and seeing how it goes. And so, yep, I just want to have that ground layer of those nitrogen fixes. What we've done over here is just thrown a diversity of seeds under the drippers. And I've also thrown some of that azola, some seeds, and put mulch on top. We can already see basically the grasses are winning. The grass seeds are already germinating, and I've got to go and make sure that I pull them out when they're young, because soon the nitrogen fixes, they're probably waiting for the soil to cool down. So the grasses are going to keep winning. They're going to try and win the race, and they will if I let them. So if you just wander down here, eventually I've got 50 apple trees there if I can dig them up and put them in a nursery.
Sorry, I missed a little bit of that. Your apple suckers, they're going to be your new apple trees.
Yeah, so that's the rootstock.
Yes.
And because we cut its head off here, the graft worked. It's decided to send up some more rootstock, so I can use that
Material.
I can use that material to create more apple trees. We have some vetch that has sort of decided to grow and set some seeds there, so we retained that. So we'll probably go along and sprinkle a few vetch seeds along here as well. But so yeah, a lot of diversity. This is an apple called a Maygold. That's on the original dwarf rootstock. So a 20-year-old tree. They're not quite ready yet. They're a little bit acidic. All of the fruit trees have got labels, if you're interested. We just engraved these. It's a bit hard to read. We're waiting for them to rust. And I found if you put these things in the ground, you lose them and you tread on them. And so we're just hanging them up here so I can actually see them. We wrote on them in black pen and they faded. So we've just engraved those. So hopefully we can read those. So this is a Jonathan apple tree, and they're not quite ready. Yeah, so we've got here some of the existing trees. That's a John a Red, and some of them we've cut their heads off. Most of the trees in this row we've cut their head off. So here's a graft that's worked, and this is a Gravenstein. So this one was done in mid-September. So yep, I basically need to start laying that down, cut that, and get rid of that. Anyway, so I never finish anything. I just try and hang on for the ride and try and create diversity. So I've had fruit fly twice in 26 years. And so if I get around to it, I put some Vegemite and water in those, and to catch fruit flies. But we didn't do it this year, so
just to monitor to see if you've got it.
Well, yeah, but I might not do the monitoring. I mean, we catch a lot of blowflies and flies, so luckily we're not surrounded by a lot of other fruit trees, and at the moment our fruit fly risk is really low, and they will get into pairs, I've found, but none this year. So anyway, we'll just keep a watching brief on that one. So sometimes some urine goes in there as well, and people often walk down the path and go, I think there's something dead in on your path. So Vegemite and water really starts fermenting and stinking. So they're traps.